welcome to Catch You Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing in the Florida Keys. I cover my favorite sport, fishing, but also all the many things to see and do down here in the islands. Thank you so much for tuning in, and now it's time to kick back and relax with me in the Keys. This week's episode of Catch You Outdoors is number 178. Catch You Outdoors is brought to you by Spotify and lots of other streaming podcast sites. This week's title, On the Move Again. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it may be while you're kind enough to be listening. Title of this podcast is just an example of my frame of mind right now. I have started the boxing stuff as well as making decisions on what must go and what must stay, and what will be headed to the storage area up in Homestead. Hoping that'll be somewhat temporary or able to downsize that as we move along. Very interesting dilemma, though. Some of the things we humans hang on to mean a lot to us from the past. And then again, we aren't reminded of them until we actually start to pack them, or to store them, or to move them. I'm currently in complete understanding of the huge business of storage places in the U.S. Do a search on Google. It'll blow your mind. It's amazing. It's amazing how much stuff we have that we just can't let go of. Time to donate. I hope. This week's podcast is going to be kind of slim, y'all. There was no fishing and no partying on our part this past week. Weather was windy, so spent time sorting and packing while Jonelle spent her time adjusting to the new job. Well, it's kind of the same, but new and different when it comes to posting on Facebook, Instagram, and the web. There's a whole different way of doing things now that they're adjusting to. But it's getting there. It's coming together. I'll say this, she has a lot more smiles right now than frowns, and that's a good thing. So, as mentioned, the weather was windy, but also sunny and warm. Beautiful if you're not trying to boat, but perfect for the pool and for our winter visitors that are watching the snow and ice around their homes way up north. Man, it's been bad up there. I mean, bad. The restaurants are full. So are the sunset bars, as it should be this time of year. I mean, after all, it's just the weather report, you know. I just saw a weather report for upper Midwest and North. Below zero again, blowing snow, ice. Lovely. Sounds like a ton of fun. There's no way I could do that. I did it, so I know there's no way I can do it. I did it when I was much younger. I spent quite a bit of time in Kentucky, a year in Cincinnati. I called that my hell year. And then other times when I was in the Coast Guard out in San Francisco, which didn't really get cold. It was just wet. New Jersey was cold. I was stationed in New Jersey. Virginia was nice. Virginia was okay because I was stationed right on the coast in Yorktown. So you had the Atlantic Ocean that kept things somewhat temperate, even for the coldest weather. But boy, I'll tell you one thing, Virginia's hotter than Florida. You ain't lived till you've been in Virginia in like August and try to play a round of golf. No way. I know of what I speak. I want to mention a really nice note I recently got from a former fishing client. He mentioned the current state of affairs and not picking sides. And by the way, neither am I. He's like many of us that are just tired of the news, both biased and unbiased. And he said he picked up my book again, one of my books again, the one called Bridge to Paradise. He said he picked it up for some relief. It's a book of many of the short stories that I have written over the years about fishing, travel, and life in general, which I believe is even in the title. Imagine that. But basically what it was is it's just to delve back into some of the stuff, either the fishing stories, articles, and things that I wrote for many magazines or many publications for that matter over a pretty long time. And I decided to compile them all and then add some new stuff. But it was really nice of him to say that that was something that he would use for relief. That made me feel good. So I actually picked the book back up and was looking through it, I thought, wow, this is pretty good. Not pat myself on the back, but it is definitely a reminisce, because all this stuff was written quite a while back now. We're talking at least 15 to 20 years ago for most of it, and a lot of it, the new stuff, of course, was just when I published the book. But it was nice of him to say that. It's kind of, I think it's fun to say the book is how do I put this? It's an observation book. And the older you get, the more you observe before speaking. However, I do give an awful lot of the side-eye looks recently. Sometimes you just go, what did he say? What did she say? You go, and then you just move on. That's the safest thing to do, is move on. On that note, by the way, my books are on sale again online. Check it out. I lowered the prices because, why? I don't want to move them. I have quite a few in the garage in boxes. The only one that I'm almost completely out of is the Fishing of Southwest Florida. So if you want one of those, you better grab it. Last count, I had 8 or 9 left, and I doubt there's that many now. And the new book has been reduced in price too, and it has also been reduced on Amazon. The price is just about $10 off, and if you're a Prime member, that includes shipping. So if you've been looking to get the book about fishing the Florida Keys, now's your chance. And they print it themselves. Now, I will say this. It's pretty. They do a good job, but it's not as pretty as one you buy straight from me. And yes, you can get them online. And yes, I also reduced the price I don't know if I matched it exactly, but I think I got it close to that. Mine also includes shipping. Mine's glossy. And I think they still print theirs on like a mat, but either way, you can get the book for less money. So, what else is happening? I know what I was going to tell you guys. I started listening more and more music because I'm packing stuff. So basically what I do is either ask my dear sweet, I'm going to call her A because she's right here in the room. She'll answer if I say anything loud enough. I ask her to play music for me, and I usually pick an artist or something. The other night I was packing stuff. The other day I was picking stuff. I picked Bad Company. Haven't heard their music in a while. And I was like, man, there's some good old stuff with that band. I also picked Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and who else did I play? Simon and Garfunkel. I was just kind of going through it, and what they do is it randomly plays songs until you get tired of it, and then you pick something else. So, but I like to listening to music most any time, stuff that I put on the turntable, as well as downloaded music. Old rock, early country, and country from the 90s when it started to go more southern rock like, and jazz. Yeah, I know I don't mention that much, but every now and then it's good just to grab some John Coltrane and kick back with rum on the rocks and just relax. Jazz is good for the soul. I call it smooth jazz or relaxing jazz, not the trumped up stuff, not like Birdland, things like that. I like the old saxophone, light piano, that kind of thing. And John Coltrane's just an example, but that's kind of along the lines. It's a great mind eraser, and I'm always looking for that moment when you can just kind of relax and not have to think about anything else, just listen to the music. And I have also begun to read again. I had to pick the books back up after spending the past couple of days sorting what will stay and what will go. Man, we got a lot of books. We have a bit of an elimination of bookcase space coming up real soon. So I am culling and trying to figure out exactly what should remain and why. Why is the big thing? There's certain books that we look at pretty regularly, and there are other books that just sit on the shelf, and the reason they're here is because they're signed. They don't go anywhere, and they're signed personally to us, not just an autograph book, but to us, and I can't get rid of those. So we're finding space. I'm wondering if the generation between the age right now of 20 to 35 even have very many books. I'm really curious about that. You can download just about anything now, and it takes up no physical space. Kind of like music, you don't need CDs anymore. You don't. You can download whatever you want, put it right onto your PC or your Mac or your phone and listen to them anywhere. Take it to the car. You don't need a CD player in the car anymore. Just plug the music in and let it rip. So I was wondering, I wonder if these people in that age group, if they even have books. And bookstores are, ain't a whole lot of them. There's small bookstores around, and I think there's only one major bookseller left. That's in this area in Florida. I'm not sure about other states, but just curious. Janelle pointed out something the other day, too. I said, look at all these fishing books. I have hundreds of fishing books, literally hundreds of them. And most of them are how-tos. A great many are fly tying, instructional books. They're all like hardbacks, talking serious books now, from the 1940s, my grandfather's books, from the 40s all the way up to pretty heavy into the 80s. And then there's a gap, and then there's some of my stuff that I bought later as I became a fishing guide. But you don't need books anymore. You don't need an instructional book. You go online. You want to figure out how to tie blah blah fly. You've seen this fly, and how do I tie that? You just go online. It pops right up in multiple different colors, and you can twist it and turn it and look at it, and it comes with tips. So I don't know. It's kind of strange when you get right down to it. So I have all these books. Literally, I'm hundreds, and I'm deciding what to keep and what to give away. Great many of them belong to my grandfather. He was an avid fly fisherman. So that's where all these fly tying books are from, both north and south. A lot of north, a lot of northeast. He lived in New Jersey, and he fished the northeast coast of the United States, but he also did a lot of fishing in the Bahamas, down here in the Keys, and in other island locations. So there are bonefish flies and stuff like that. And it's fun to look at what people were tying. It hadn't changed, at least not for bonefish. It might be a little more creative, a little better colors, maybe. But all in all, it's the Crazy Charlie is in that book too, all the way up to the new stuff. So, but I'm contemplating on where to donate most of this stuff. I'm not interested in selling. I'm interested in giving it to a group that would care about it. I've got some contacts, and I'm going to work on that. And any of you all listening, you got any ideas? I don't want a library. I'm not going to send it to a library. I'm going to send it to a fishing club or a large fishing organization, something like that would really be interested in these books. This is kind of a museum type stuff. It's not just an everyday book. So, as a matter of fact, one of the books I'm keeping of my grandfather's was actually forwarded by Ernest Hemingway, like in real time, not pretend. I was looking at it going, dang, look at that. And there are many books like that I'm going to hang on to. But, he bought a lot of fishing books, and it was surprising to me to see how many really cool people, McLean and a lot of other old fishermen that have been long gone, long passed away, forwarded some of these books and signed some of them too. So, and then there's the artwork. Oh, I don't know if I want to talk about that or not. You all know about me and the art. Janelle used to threaten me every time we went to an event, don't you buy any more art. There'd be a piece of something that just struck me. And you got to understand now, art at a lot of these shows like CCA and these places that do these big fishing events, they're not real expensive. They would otherwise be. It depends on who wins the auction, of course, but a great many of these things are done by very, very famous artists around the country, outdoor artists, and outdoor photographers too. And a lot of it's really beautiful stuff. And I have a real affinity for it, which I am calming down because now we have limited wall space. I will say this: only the best will be on the walls of the new place. That's for sure. We might play the rotation game again, but I'm going to have to store the ones I don't. There's no storage room at this place, so that becomes an issue. But we'll work it out. I ain't too worried. Speaking of CCA, the banquet is Thursday night. I'm recording this on Wednesday. So we'll be attending. No, we're not going to buy anything. We're just going to show up and shake hands and smile at people because it's nice when you're in the Keys, you pretty much know people, and it's the same fishing people, and they'll all be there. So it's a lot of fun to go to these functions, and that's what we'll do. And I will report on the next podcast. Anything interesting happens, or if I learn anything interesting from CCA and what they're all about, what they're up to, I'll put it on the next podcast. And what else? Oh, coming soon, of course, is a gigantic nautical market. They call it now. They used to call it the Nautical Flea Market. That is this weekend. That's this Saturday, Sunday. This will be interesting. We can't buy anything. And also, same thing holds true. We'll walk around and visit all the people that we know, which will be a lot of fun. The dates for that, by the way, are February 22nd, 23rd. So it's this Saturday and Sunday coming up. And it's in Founders Square Park in Islamorada. And I was listening to the radio this morning, and the sheriff was on. He was warning about the traffic. So he said, be patient. And, if you got someplace to go before 8 a.m., do it. Otherwise, the road's going to be tied up in that location. And I've seen it. It is. I will say this, though. The sheriff puts crosswalks in, which is really smart in the main parking areas. If you park, you walk down to the crosswalk area and go across that way. And that helps move the traffic a little better than people trying to dance in between cars, which is not cool. Let's see. In April, the Bonefish Tarpon Trust Circle of Honor event is held at Chica Lodge. And we just realized a few days ago we'll be able to walk up the beach to that. Kind of wild when you think about it. We don't have to even come into the front door. We can just go up the beach to the bar on the backside. So cool. And it would be unusual for me to not give a fishing tip for the week. So I'm going to do that. Like I said, this is going to be short. There's no way in heck. I may not even hit 25 minutes on this one. The tarpon are biting around the Keys. Yeah, I know it's February, but while everyone north of us is suffering from cold, we certainly aren't. Water temperatures are in the high 70s. Most of the readings in the Back Bays are 77 to 80 right now. And quite a few 80 marks have been hit along the shoreline as well. That's kind of unusual for late February. Now, we have a cold front coming, which for us means one night of about 59. I doubt it's going to happen here because there's too much water around us. That's a Miami report. I would suspect 62, 63. But the following 2 days after that, the highs are 81 and 84. So it's going to be short-lived. It'll be a nice little break, of course. But that's not going to affect the water temperature all that much. And that's why the tarpon are on the move. That and there is an abundance of bait. I mean, an abundance of bait. Pools of it out in the backcountry, around Key Largo all the way down to Key West. Reported best bite for tarpon has been Islamorada north to Cape Sable. So the tarpon are starting to move under the bridges, which they always do, and they're starting to push up into Florida Bay. And the reports I'm seeing are, they're decent. These are tarpon that are 70, 80 pounds to over 100 pounds. They move in pretty large schools, and so the guides are all grinning right now. The only problem is a great many people book March and April trips, and y'all better check your calendar. Flies and live bait are working, obviously. Speaking of bait, like I said, that white bait is showing up in huge, huge pods around Florida Bay. So those are people that like to net them. You have a pretty easy time of it now. Check the mangrove edges. That's where they've been. Let's see. You know what that means? That also means the snook will start moving around. When you got that much white bait, you're definitely going to have snook moving in the bushes. And, of course, the warm temperature makes them hungry. So there's just a lot of positives about this. It's just weird that it's this far in advance. I don't predict a horribly hot summer just because of this, because of the jet stream and the way things are moving. But we are definitely going to have a very early spring. Offshore reports are good from the big boats. They can get out there. But so much for the smaller center consoles and boats like mine, the flat skiffs, ain't no way. Unless you can, there's some places along the I don't want to just eliminate every place. There are some places along the Keys that you can tuck up against the side of the islands, right on the edge of the patch reefs and out of the east wind. Because the Keys, as you move, like up here, it's hard for us because Key Largo is a very, very northeast to southwest orientation. We just, we're cockeyed. We're on that side of the clock from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And then as you move around, the islands move more westerly and southerly, but much more westerly. So all of a sudden, the east wind is really smacking the side of the island, the eastern side of the island, and you don't get as much buffeting from that. And I know that in Islamorada, something I'm looking forward to. I'll be able to fish a lot more because when you get a big breeze in Islamorada and it's an easterly, you've still got a lot of good water you can get into. And that's very hard up here. It's very hard up here. So looking forward to that. Yellowtail, bite has been fabulous. Blackfin tuna, seen a lot of blackfin and mahi, but mostly blackfin tuna out in about 200 to 300 feet. Look for the birds. It's all about birds right now. There's not much, at least I haven't heard much, about weed lines. Normally by this time of year, you start to get this weed stuff, but it hasn't been very much. It's been floating debris, pieces of this, pieces of that. But the main thing is look for birds and go to the diving birds and try to make a nice long cast or set up on the wind so that they come your way. What else? Let's see. Dropping baits out in the reef line, past the reef line, about 50 to 70 feet of water has been getting the biggest yellowtail. The smaller yellowtail are up on top of the patch reef, so don't expect to get anything legal. Everybody was saying they're all like 12 inches. And I think it was at 14 now overall. I always forget. I have to look it up every time I go out there. But I believe it's 14. And you're going to have to go deeper to get that size. So there, I threw in a fishing report. Sort of. Yay. Okay, it's time once again for useless information.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
Truth in Advertising here. This actually came from a book I found sorting books. It's the world's greatest book of useless information. Another one. Oh no. The compact disc was invented in 1965. Edwin Beard Budding invented the lawnmower in 1830. Bummer. An average toilet uses 3 gallons of water every time it's flushed. That's no longer true. This book is dated. Most toilets now use, about a gallon, I think. Pocket calculators first appeared in the 1970s. I remember having one. And last but not least, laptop computers are around 30% more likely to fail than a computer that stays in one place. I can agree with that one. So that's it till next week. And before I go, here are some final words. I've been observing. I mentioned that earlier. Yes, observing. I love people watching. And down here we get all walks of life. The very young children playing in the water and in the streets in the small neighborhoods. The 20-somethings that are just married, obviously crazy in love, hanging on each other, holding each other up, and dressed in their best island clothes everywhere they go. The worker bees, some looking excited to be very busy again, and some not so excited, hoping that everyone will just go home soon and leave the islands in peace and quiet once again. Winter guests from way up north. Yeah, thankful that they are once again escaping the ice and the snow and the below zero temperatures. You could tell who they are during football season, though, as they crowded into the bars with TVs during the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And lastly, the old folks like us who are so thankful to be living on a rock with only one main road and also having access to the freshest seafood just about anywhere. I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Facebook page is Sketchy Outdoors. The website, sketchyoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and news about books and my music. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.